Alright, welcome back to Kamen Review episode 199. We are here reviewing episodes 10 to 13 of Kamen Rider Decade. 10 and 11 is the two-part tribute to Kamen Rider 5s. Yeah. Oh, by the way, they have this image of basically 5s' motorcycle transforming into like a robot. That does not happen in this two-parter. Nope, that was a tease. That did not happen. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? That's one of the things about 5s, basically, I thought was really interesting to see here. Of course, I still have my list to see 5s, yes, but I'm like, come on, seriously? So, I haven't watched 5s, but it is on my list, very high on my list, per se, where you'll find out, basically, I finished talking about Decade. So, 5s, well, basically he's a student at this academy. And we found out this two-parter, he is the same species as the monsters from the show. From 5s, that is. And from what I read, this actually is in line with the version from the show. Of course, it's an alternate version of the character, but, yeah. Of course, great the fact they have the suit here. I think at the time this was 2009. And I think 5s aired in 2003, I think it was. It's only been 6 years, but at least the suit was kept intact. Unlike in the case of the next two-parter, which I'll talk about that. So, by the way, in this two-parter, we have Kaito, where he debuts his Rider form, Kamen End, or The End. Yeah. And by the way, the Prophet himself, he's there briefly in this two-parter. In the Agato two-parter, which comes after this one, he's not there. Nope, not there. Do not know why he's not there. He does show up occasionally with it. I think he took a couple episodes off. So, and the whole thing is fighting over 5's transformation belt, which I don't know why they keep referring to as a buckle. When I think of a buckle, I think of this. This is a buckle. For some reason, they've heard of the hench devices in the show as buckles. I mean, technically, what Decade has is a hench device. Of course, that's what the outside world calls it. In show, they've heard of it here as a buckle. And apparently, it looks like 5's transformation device also involves a flip phone. I like the way the look of the 5's suit, and I love the belt. It looks awesome. Makes you think like, I gotta watch this show, but it's not the next one, basically. It's, the one after this one is, just as popular as 5's. Yeah, that's the thing with the first decade of the Heisei era, where a lot of the first, Heisei Phase 1 is very popular with a lot of fans. Like Kuga obviously is popular, with, Agato, Ryoki, 5's is basically pretty popular. There's a lot, I don't know much about Kiva, or, basically populated that one, or in the case of the other one aired that one, but basically the first 4, yeah, those are pretty popular. Yes. So, but it was nice to do this two-parter, and by the end, basically, it's like, he had to go to school for a reason. It's called Smart Brain. Interesting, but oh yeah, also I've heard Blaze pretty popular too. Yes, I heard that one's popular. Yep. Excuse me. But there's not really much to say about the two-part. It's pretty good. In the case of the Agato two, I know I have a lot to say about this one. Well, mainly because the last Kamen series I just finished up, well, before Zets anyways, was in fact Kamen Rider Agato. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, they do know the fact it's similar to Kuga. There's a lot of nods to Kuga in this one. Because, of course, Agato was meant to be a sort of a spiritual sequel to Kuga. They mentioned the Grongi, and, of course, we meet the person in charge. We also see the G3X. Seeing that, oh, this is the one of Agato. I mean, except, I should point out, though, Akawa's not in that suit. Nope. He's not there. He does not exist in this world. Apparently, Zenichi does exist here, except he's the counterpart, this version anyway, is counterpart not only to the Shinichi of Agato, but Hakota, and also, I kid you not, the guy who's Gills, Rio. Yeah, he's the counterpart of the 3 writers. I thought that was interesting. Also, that was really cool. They actually brought back the house from Agato, where it looks like this. Like we see the garden. Like I know about that garden because Shinichi in that show he loved that garden very much. It looks like having apparently on the inside, it looked like no one's in this house for years, and they mentioned this was Shinichi's house. Okay, here's a question I like to ask. Where's the professor, his son, and sort of his basically his foster daughter? Where the heck are these 3? Are they dead? I don't know. It's been some time. Also, the person in charge of each reaction is not Sumiko like it was in Agato. It's actually Ai. Well, an alternate version of her, anyways. Alternate version of the one period in Kuga. This one is an alternate version of that one, but also she's a stand-in for Sumiko. Yeah, that's kind of the weird thing about the Agato, basically, where this one, where like a lot of the characters from that show are actually not here in this one. I mean, and here's the thing. So it's revealed in this 2-part of this Shinichi in this one, who's by the way is Akawa, not some other name, and also Shinichi in the original show. That was actually not his actual name. That was the name of basically his boyfriend. His real name was something else in the show. Here it's just Shinichi Akawa. Which that's the thing about the Decade show, where they have basically the writer had the same first name as the one from the original shows, but the last name is completely different. Also, this one's very disheveled. Also, he's got basically a bum leg. It's not explained why his leg is injured. Yeah, it's not really explained here. And he's kind of a drifter. And of course, Decade has to protect him from, I think it's the Grange, of course. No, it's actually the Unknowns, which of course, naturally, they've heard as Unknowns. Yeah, for some reason, they're not referred to as the Lords. That's basically what these creatures are, the Lords. And they're all led by basically this Taurus guy with this Omega symbol on his forehead. And then, for some reason, Shinichi transforms into Exceed Gills. And Diane refers to, Kaito refers to this as Gills, despite the fact that's not regular Gills. Okay, for what I looked up apparently about this, they were planning on using the original Gills suit in the show, but here's the thing. The suit apparently wasn't stored properly, so it fell apart over the course of 7 years. So they just had to use the X-Seed suit. Despite the fact that's not that's not the default form for Gills. They've heard of Gills as sort of somebody who can become Agato. Then later on in part 2, he does become Agato, and then Taurus is like, no, not Agato, you're basically, you can't be God. And of course, he's like, I'm just a normal human. And Shinichi, and of course, Decade has to protect them because of Ai. It also seems like Ai basically has some attachment to Yosuke, but it's like, kind of treats the same way that she does, basically, if she was talking to, basically, Shinichi. And of course, he becomes sort of part of the unit, along with Diane, which, of course, he took off his suit. Yeah, I thought this was really cool, seeing, like, 4 writers in, like, one episode, except that Yosuke apparently at one point in this 2-parter, he actually does try to transform into Kuga, but he's stopped by basically Kaito. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. You're probably thinking, wait, he's still Kuga, but it's like he just doesn't get to transform. He will transform later on. Now, he mainly joined them because his world was destroyed, so he had no place to go. So, and by the way, how I know it was Agato before they got there? Well, in the case of the Agato one, this one was really interesting. Basically, they took the famous painting from the opening title sequence with the whole arc thing, people go in it. That was actually open time sequence from Agato, and they used that to identify this is Agato. I thought that was really cool. And by the way, his final form in this one, in the case of Fives, he turned into a gun. Like he's freaking G1 Megatron. But in the case of Agato, his final form, now in the case of Kuga, it's transforming the Beetle, who becomes part of his motorcycle in the Kuga show. In the case of Agato, he becomes the hoverboard motorcycle. I'm like, wait a minute, he becomes that? Okay, I thought that was interesting. Also in this two-parter, Yosuke wears this almost the same exact helmet as Shinichi wears in Agato, the silver helmet he wears. And then Shinichi arrives back at the G3X unit, and this, of course, after all the unknowns defeated the one in this episode, and he tells them, like, oh yeah, this world protected by this world's Kamen Rider, and that being Shinichi. G3X not needed, but protected by them. Probably, and then, of course, Yosuke just pulls Ai and has her hold Shinichi's hand because Ai's got a thing for him. I'm like, that was really cool. And also, apparently, Diana's like, is feeling this one like, oh, he's after treasures. In the Fives one, he was after the Fives belt. Actually, no, he was actually after he was after that just to get his hands on another belt. A sort of like an emperor, basically, the Fives belt was made by a company in the Fives world, and he got that one. In the case Agato, he wanted the G4 chip, which I thought that was interesting, given the fact that G4 was a suit in Agato. Like, I always love all the Easter eggs, but good thing I know about them because I've seen these shows. So far in 13 episodes, of all the ones that it tributes for, the only ones I actually have seen are just Kuga, Ryoki, and Agato. And I have not seen Blade, Kiva, or Fives yet. They're on the list, definitely. But this one was really cool. At the end of episode 13, their next place is going to be the world of Den-O. How did I know that? Because they had a Den-O liner. Now, here's the thing. I've seen a lot of stuff around Den-O. I've seen it pop up in other stuff. Heck, I've seen a whole movie related to a team with O's. And now we have a two-part tribute for him. Which, from what I'll talk a little about this one when I talk about the next episode of this one. Because it's going to be quite interesting to discuss Den-O. Yep. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next time we have a Kamen Corner, and it's on to Back to Kamen Rider for episode 200 for this review series. Yes, the very next episode is 200, which I'm looking forward to that. Okay, next video. Bye.